So if you're done with lesson 40 of class and the first part, this is some homework I want you to review and do your own research on this. And the title of this is, well, why is 22 a day happening still? If you don't know what it is, go ahead and look it up. If you want to support, the people that are combating this, look up a guy named Corey Schaefer. He owns the company, the Till Valhalla company. Cool guy, knew him back in the day, but definitely check him out. Check out the company. And if you want, you can support them, or you can go and look up Vet Gang and check them out as well and get yourself a hat. So let's get into it, right? So the first question you have to ask yourself is, well, is this happening stateside? Is this a psychological operation? Now, in part 2 of class is lesson 40, right? The continuation of fighting or defense against the dark arts, as I would like to call them. I talk about SADRAT. I talk about coercion, so on and so forth. This is when groups or different entities work together to cause something to happen as a group effort. In other videos, I mentioned, understanding not just psychology, but when you look at something, even as beautiful as the painting of the Last Supper, why are they positioned or painted that way? Why does that piece of artwork look like that? Why is it called Mona Lisa, right? Or why does it say Mona Lisa smile, right? How was she put in a position where somebody needed to make her smile because she was, well, put down or something like that, right? Or didn't see the beauty within themselves. So think about that. If it goes outside of your state, right? If, let's say, everything's happening to you and say, Texas, South Carolina, Florida, whatever the case may be, and then you travel outside of that state to like Virginia or Maryland or New York or Boston or California, and it follows you there, well, then it's federal because it crossed state lines. If it just happens in one location, it's just happening within the state, but that still has a certain level of approval that needs to happen in order for that to occur and for people to shut up because they have to acquire data, information, and everything else. So it'd be readily easy for law enforcement to actually do this unless they're in on it too. Now, to stop those who can do something, right? So if you're somebody with, an ability to stand up or not take shit or, whatever the case may be, they may utilize some of those tactics in order to push you into a certain endeavor. Right? I had a gentleman by the name of Lance Graham like to push the envelope a little bit too far, and now he's in prison, so on and so forth, for shooting at cops, etc. But maybe he asked certain questions, figured something out, and got fed up, or maybe he was doing something else and his psychology got misconstrued. I have no idea, but he's now in that situation, which is why thinking better, not just differently, and thinking critically are important. Moving forward, so think about it. If you're somebody that has the ability to stop or do something or affect the minds of masses and people that look up to you, do you not think that they would not try to get leverage on you and put some particular which way sort of way, or have a way to take care of you or shut you up or make an example of you? I mean, look at what they did to Andrew Tate for running his mouth, and well, his brother stood up with him, so they put their butts away apparently. I mean, just think about the world in which we live in and what's also happening and playing out everywhere. Then, of course, well, they also do this to prevent secrets or stop those that can help, right? Because, I mean, think about it. If you were a former military, right, and you were a corpsman, why can't you just transition to the hospital being a nurse, right? Why do you have to go back to school and get into more debt or utilize your GI Bill when the job is very transferable, right? And then, of course, doctors, etc., so on and so forth, they actually have a license so they could transition over, but the corpsmen should be able to transfer over like nurses, or at least get way more credits for CLS training, so on and so forth, so that they could graduate faster, so they could utilize their degree in the pursuit of maybe becoming a doctor and not having to, well, get into so much debt. Think about that. It's like a CLEP exam, right? But that would be the analogy, right? So what would the transition be for somebody that was, in a supply company or in the financial sector, as an O3, would they go into law enforcement or would they go into law, right? If they were, something else, what would they do? Unless they were being positioned or placed somewhere, right? Now, the last point I want to make is the reason why is because of fear. See, if someone fears something, they either don't know much about it because it's a random thing and they don't know how it's occurring or what's occurring, so they want to get closer and closer. Remember, in other videos, I also mentioned the movie Now You See Me, and one of the things in the first movie is get close, get real close. But what happens to a fly around, let's say, a campfire, or when people are out at night and they have those tiki torches or whatever? When the fly gets too close, it gets zapped, right? Well, it's funny because in hypnosis, there's a technique called rapid induction that was also published to people in that community as a zap technique, right? Or a rapid induction. Think about that. So I want you guys to, well, do your homework and ask yourself more critical questions. I hope I sparked something here. But, hopefully this just is a little bit of a message to certain individuals, because yes, if we look at this together, you have to understand that there's not just a brotherhood, but there's a unity. But if you create division against both, they'll never stand together, and those in power will always forever control them. So till next time, my friends. By the way, go ahead and check out part 2 of lesson 40 of class. It will behoove you in order to understand other things that will be occurring either in your life in the future or with those that you care about if they ever get put into a certain situation. Till next time, my friends, take care and peace.